Hi, everybody, and welcome to Resolve to Live Forward. Thank you for being with me today on the second Friday already of the month of January in a brand new year, 2026. This podcast is distributed across a number of podcast platforms, including Spotify and the iTunes Store or Apple, if you prefer. It's also on other platforms. And that's, of course, as a result of the hosting platform Buzzsprout, which provides that service for me as well. Also, I can be seen on YouTube, and I hope that you catch me on YouTube, that you'll like and subscribe and follow me. And of course, I appreciate your comments, and I want to let you know right up front that I welcome your emails with hopefully thoughtful and carefully prepared ideas and advice and sharing with me because the entire purpose of this podcast is it's not about me, it's about us. It's about those of us who've gone through our lives having gone through devastating situations that have just basically leveled us, put us flat on our face. And there is the contention here that there's really only two choices. I've always believed you either get busy living or you get busy dying. And I've seen both sides of that equation. And that's why I talk about what I do. And that's also where the power word resolve comes into play. It was a power word that was selected at the end of the year 2017 by my late wife and I. And it has become my power word for life. I want to talk to you about the month of January and about the setup for a good year. And I want to try to do the very best that I can to give you the most useful and beneficial information possible. I've been looking at some quotes here recently, and I'm going to read one here for you in just a second. It says that growth is the only evidence of life. So you need to take charge of your growth this year. Preferably, since it is the month of January, this being the ninth day of the month, if you haven't sat down and given some thought, let me share a quick story with you about my take on resolutions. And this is not to say that resolutions are not beneficial, they are extraordinarily beneficial, but resolutions don't work for everybody. And I'll be honest with you, a power word doesn't work for everybody. A specific theme doesn't work for everybody. Some people are just not into making conscientious, determined decisions that they will achieve specific objectives involving their personal, emotional, physical, educational, financial, relational, all of those areas where growth can take place in a very positive way. There will always be people who look at life from a very negative lens. There are people that I know that are very close to me who live that way. I've learned not to be accepting of it, but I've learned that there's a time and a place when you have an opportunity to say something positive, but for lack of a positive thing to say, the best thing to do is number one, just keep your mouth shut and wait for the nearest exit strategy to show up. Or, as I like to say, number two, try as much as possible to choose to avoid negative people. Negative people will create toxic language and a toxic surrounding. Now, whether you think so or not, that can have an effect upon you because what comes in will certainly stay there. And what you have coming out will depend upon how you govern your thought processes. But if you spend more time being around the right kind of people, spend more time watching the right kinds of things, reading the right kinds of things, eating the right kinds of things, and engaging with the right kind of people and circumstances and situations, you create a much healthier environment for yourself, and you can and will, I believe with all my heart, experience positive growth in all aspects of your life. I also know that I'm a realist. And those of you that have heard my story know that the experience of watching my wife die was devastating, totally devastating. It shattered me. And in shattering me, it put me in a very, very difficult situation. Yes, I had support systems in place. You cannot begin to place a value on friends. You especially cannot begin to put a value on family and the love of family. But you also need to understand that there are extended families. And those extended families cover a breadth of things that I have some in my life, you have some in yours. We all have some that are in common and some that are totally unique and different. And for me, my faith group, my church family, the friends that I've made over the course of the decades that I've lived here in Central Florida, where this broadcast is being recorded, as well as my association through Toastmasters International and specifically Toastmasters here in the state of Florida. I've had a part with that group since 1985. I've lived in Lakeland since 1975. All I'm saying is that when you talk about putting down roots, roots are very, very important because the tree may take a beating from time to time in the storms of life. It may even get every single bit of bark and leaves ripped off of it. And as sure as anybody could possibly imagine, you're thinking there's no hope. But let me tell you what there is. But again, it goes back to the thing about who you have surrounding you. You have to rely upon them. You can't go through this on your own. Let me go back to that phrase again. Growth is the only evidence of life. Take charge of yours this year. And since it's January, I would say take charge of yours now, immediately. What the new year brings depends upon what you bring with you to that new year. In the living forward process, I believe there has to be a system in place that gives you operating skills. These operating skills are not just the things that help you get work done and have a degree of quality of life and are beneficial to helping you care for yourself and to be vibrant and beneficial and relevant in your community. But I also think that these sets of pre-planned skills, operational practices, personal best practices, as I sometimes call it, are the things that you do even on days when you don't feel like doing them. And whether you have a system already set up or certain things that you can count upon, or you're very, very well organized and have a structured day, and you know when you're going to get up and you make it a habit of getting up. And I am not saying that this is the only way to do things, but I have tremendous admiration for people who every day you can know that when that alarm goes off, they're going to be up. It is one where they're going to get up, and even if they don't feel all that great, they're going to will themselves forward to getting things done because they have an operational practice, a system, a process. These are all the things which give you an anchoring mechanism in your life. You don't lay there wondering, should I get up and get started or not? Now, there have been times in these last well over 6.5 years now since Donna died that there are days when I just really don't want to get out from underneath the covers. That doesn't happen that very often, but trust me, although it doesn't happen that often, it will happen. It happens to me. I've learned that grief is not something that you can move past. Grief is not something that you can slowly forget about. Grief is not something that you will ever 100% heal from. In other words, You'll never return to what you were before the event because the event in and of itself is traumatic and it leaves permanent damage. Call it a scarring effect if you want to, and how that looks and how you picture that, how you describe that is entirely up to you. But for me, what it means is there are those times whenever I realize I'm alone, that the most important person in my life for over 46 years, but we were married almost 46 years, that most important person in my life is not here. She's left a wonderful legacy, and I do have items in the house that are vivid memories of the experience of being married to an incredible human being. She was one of the most amazing women on the planet. But at the end of the day, I'm here. I have to be useful. I have to make a difference. I can't make a significant difference in the life of people if I'm only looking for what life can give to me. Now, it's easy to wish that you could have something given to you. But here's a reality that I've discovered. You will have good things come in your direction, and you will receive gifts that come to you as a complete surprise right out of the blue. But in addition to that, what you need to realize is if you're waiting for somebody to bring it to you, you'll be wasting a lot of valuable time when you could be serving others. And in the service to others, it is just the idea that life should be not so much about what you get out of it, but what you put into it. Let's go back to that phrase. It's your chance to bring something to this new year. What are you bringing with you? And you need to also look at what you're bringing in terms of any dead weight that's going to drag you down and make you less effective. I constantly have to work on that because there's another facet here in this living forward process as an individual who has experienced the trauma of the loss of a precious loved one, but has also experienced tremendous miracles in his life. But still, there is one thing that I have to really work at, and that is the fact that I'm not getting younger. As I told you, it was over 6.5 years ago when my wife passed away. She died exactly 1 week before I turned 69. Now, if you do the math, I turned 69 in 2019, 1 week after my wife died. And so, therefore, I'll be turning 76 this year in 2026. I think I'm doing pretty good for a 76-year-old, and I have people who tell me, hey, you look pretty good. Thank you. But I am damaged goods. But the damaged goods are only those things which mean I've learned to accept the fact that I can't do a lot of the things that I once could do. But I can do things still that are very, very important that indicate to me that I can still have vibrancy in my life. And by the grace of God, and barring any unforeseen circumstance that could be potentially fatal, the truth is, I have the capacity to go out there and be active in the community. I can go walking. I can have fellowship with people in different kinds of groups. I can stay active in the home. I can cook. I can clean house. I can cut my grass. I can take care of my property. I can do projects and everything. I have to pace myself, obviously, but I still can do these things. I still have the capacity to learn. I have a cognitive skill. And that cognitive skill is important because the process of learning is very much a life-giving thing. I've always thought that if you stop learning, you start the process of dying because you begin to shut yourself away from not only what you should know and need to know in order to stay abreast of what this world is all about, but you shield yourself from the things that you can do that are going to make your life richer and better. And that comes not just through in the learning process of reading and watching the right kind of programming on TV, getting on the computer and learning things, learning how to use technology. But it also has to do with engaging people in the social situation. You need to connect with people. The entire thing of beginning the new year, whether you do resolutions, whether you do a power word, whether you have a theme of the year, or whether you just simply have the mindset that there's a certain set of things that are musts. In other words, they're no-brainers, they're going to be done, and only an incredibly unexpected, extenuating circumstance is going to prevent you from doing them. You're going to do them. But we all can work on ourselves in 2026. And here in the month of January, you can certainly work on yourself. Now, there is something here in the thing of this particular time of the year that I want to talk about for just a moment. We who live in the United States of America, we live in the Northern Hemisphere, and January is smack dab in the middle of what we call the season of winter. Now, I was born in what would be called a somewhat temperate climate. I was born in Southeast Tennessee. We had four very, very clearly visible and clearly defined seasons. We had winter, spring, summer, and fall or autumn. They all have significant things. Back in December on the 21st, we had the winter solstice, which, and excuse me for a moment while I take my glasses off and scratch a little itch that I've got here on the top bridge of my nose. The winter solstice here in the Northern Hemisphere represents the longest night of the calendar year. For us, it also comes during a season when the days are far shorter, the nights are much longer, and if you're in a temperate climate area and not in the subtropic area like Florida, you're going to have cold weather, sub-freezing weather on a periodic basis. And the further north you go, the more severe the winters get. But there is a psychological aspect of that that I've come to understand, and I've read books by eminent psychiatrists and mental health specialists who talk about it. That reduction of light, that being shut in and not outside in the elements and being active and being able to be active, it has a physiological effect upon you and it has an emotional effect upon you. Which is one of the reasons why, when we were having a conversation recently in this past Christmas holiday season, for me, I observe Christmas among the events of the last 4 months of the year. There's so many wonderful holidays and times and dates and special things. But I observed that it is in those times that this celebration, we focus on something that gives us joy. And there's a lot of that that comes from interpersonal activity with family and loved ones, as well as friends and community. Now, I live in Florida, and in Florida, we have much milder weather, but we do have occasional cold snaps during this time of the year. I can tell you that leading up to Christmas, we had temperatures here in Central Florida, where I live in Lakeland, that for a couple of nights went down into the 30s. They didn't go down to freezing. I'm talking about 32 degrees or less, but they were in the 30s. Anybody will tell you, no matter what part of the country you're from, it's still cold. And if you're up north, you may go out and have a perfectly good time, but you're going to be wearing something that's going to keep you from getting cold because 38 can cause hypothermia. But I'm not here to talk about the scientific part of it. I'm just saying that these are things which have a direct effect upon us. So what do we do to offset them? We're still in January. I need to be sure that I understand that while we still are experiencing longer nights and shorter days and periodic cold temperatures that keep me inside and force me to have to shut my windows and turn on the heat because I do get chilly. Plus, I moved here in 1975 and I'm very climatized now. So I've become, as they say, fluoridized. And that's not fluoride in toothpaste either. If anybody wants to think about a joking manner, it's a play on words. But the principal thing is that activity sometimes requires much more intentionality. Ah, there's a powerful word, intentionality. Perhaps maybe as I begin to wind down in this particular podcast episode, talking about how we begin the year in a positive way, laying foundation for a successful year, understanding that we can't predict everything that's going to happen, but we can set ourselves up for success. Perhaps maybe what we need to do is Choose a word that represents the behavior that we want to take, and that's to be intentional about doing what is best for our personal welfare and what is best for the people that we're tasked with serving and caring for, and those in our immediate circle of influence who are our loved ones and family and close friends and extended family. The key, again, is making a choice. I can't say it enough. Living forward is a choice. Intentionally living forward is the definition of a choice. Living forward is not spending your time thinking about what's out in the future. It's always going forward and not looking backward and not turning around and saying, I'm not going to try it anymore, and go back to where you were and throw away everything that you accomplished. It's not for quitters. Living forward is about finding a way forward, even if you have to limp, even if you have to, sorry to say it, have to crawl. One way or the other, you made up your mind through a resolute mindset that you will find a way to live forward. Which brings me to the close of this podcast. My power word is resolve. I will go back to it repeatedly. Having a definite, firm plan of action, I know that I must live forward. If I'm going to live forward, I'm going to live with behaviors that are going to promote healthy forward living. The 7 letters in resolve give me that pattern by assigning a behavior to each letter. R for resilience. E for engagement, engaging every opportunity and engaging the day with intentionality. S for serving others as well as serving myself, but always doing it with a selfless mindset. O for organization, structure, organization, planning, having a pattern laid out, a process. These are all part of organization. And people that are organized get things done. L for learning. Love learning, because loving learning and learning gives life. V, you see forward and you have a vision, but the vision is not about what might happen. It's about what you want to see happen in your life. It's a visionary mindset. See it, draw it up, define it, clarify it, and add details to it, and let it be a driving force. But don't be so wrapped up on looking forward that you forget that in order to get to that visionary mindset, you must be doing things productively today. So even today, you have a visionary thought process. And of course, the last letter in resolve, that last E, is do it with enthusiasm. Have a driving mindset that says, even if I don't feel all that great, I will myself to be enthusiastic, because living forward is a choice. Thank you for joining me today. Always enjoy this opportunity. I appreciate the fact that we are now in the 3rd year of this program. I've done over 75 episodes. Looking back, it's hard to believe that I've already arrived at this point, but it drives me. I hope that you are finding a means to live forward. When we talk next week, I'm going to delve into some of the areas of behaviors that we can begin to address in our life that will help us to get a better idea of how to pick and choose and properly identify and catalog those things which truly pay us excellent personal, life-saving, and life-giving benefits. You've been watching and listening to Resolve to Live Forward, the podcast. I'm John Morrow. My email is johnmorrowcoaching@gmail.com. Again, that's John Morrow, Morrow, johnmorrowcoaching@gmail.com. You're probably listening to this podcast on Spotify, perhaps maybe the iTunes Apple Store, but you're probably maybe even listening to it on another podcast platform. And the reason for that is I use a hosting platform, and I want to thank the people at Buzzsprout for the incredible services that that hosting platform has provided for me. And you can also find me, Resolve to Live Forward with John Morrow, on YouTube, because I've started, as I record this both in audio and video, I've started uploading these videos to my YouTube channel. Your feedback means something to me, but give me feedback if I've done something or shared something with you that's meaningful. And also, too, if you get me, you also therefore can give me great ideas on what I can talk about, and it will help me as I move forward to continue to make this podcast meaningful to people. Because after all, finding a way to live forward requires a lot of work and a lot of support. As I wrap up, just remember what I like to always say. Make the choice intentionally, and please, every day, live forward. So long.